The lives of more young people are being affected by violence. New today, how the fight to hold juveniles accountable could shape up. Parents in Howard County are demanding accountability after issues with school buses make students late and disrupt school start times. We make their frustrations heard. Then the Orioles punch their ticket to the postseason for the first time since 2016. Our Sports Unlimited team has what's next for the Birds as they continue their pennant race.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
The juvenile crime crisis continues right now with another 5 kids shot in Baltimore over the weekend.
96 young people have been shot in the city this year. 13 have been killed. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. The violent weekend came just days after lawmakers, police, and prosecutors met to address the youth crime crisis. Some officials say it's time to send a message.
To our young people, you are not outsmarting the police. You are not outmaneuvering prosecutors. You will not scare your peers into silence.
When lawmakers do return for the next legislative session, lawmakers will be looking to DJS head Vincent Schiraldi for guidance on any changes to the state's juvenile justice laws. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost taking a closer look at how his influence could shape the state's response to the crisis. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary, so Governor Westmore describes Vincent Schiraldi as a reformer. Some of Schiraldi's policy ideas raised some questions by lawmakers during his confirmation process. And now, as the pressure continues to build from prosecutors and police, those views are back in the spotlight. In Baltimore City, the juvenile crime crisis continues to grip the community. 5 teens shot this weekend. 96 young people have been shot in Baltimore this year, 13 killed. In Prince George's County, the juvenile bloodshed continues as well.
We are seeing young people who are not only victimizing their own community members, but who are victimizing and killing each other.
A young girl shot and killed outside of her high school trying to break up a fight.
People deserve to live in places that are safe, and our kids deserve not to die.
The calls for change on the heels of a House hearing where the Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi touts a drop in juvenile crime.
As juvenile incarceration has declined, so has juvenile crime.
But that data called into question by a bipartisan group of lawmakers, instead pointing to the juvenile justice reform laws as a possible reason for the drop in juvenile crime complaints.
I'm not sure it's because there has been a drop in juvenile crime. I think the numbers have simply dropped because in many cases police officers have not brought charges.
It is not necessarily the case that juvenile crime is decreasing with your numbers if so many actual cases of juvenile crime never reach your department.
And now law enforcement leaders argue policymakers are not listening to the people on the front lines of this growing crisis.
Some people may have this idea to tell us that we actually do not see what we see.
There's no rush for that. I'd rather get it right and then just trying to estimate and tell you something. But no, I believe in doing things in decency and in order, and I'm going to stand with that.
Well, Fox 45 News has heard from prosecutors across the state and Baltimore City, all saying their hands are tied by current laws. And now is the time for change. That group represents more than 4.5 million people, about 80% of Maryland's population.
If we don't do something to hold these young people accountable, they will continue to run and almost have lawlessness in our cities. And we can't have that.
Some of our laws that have been passed recently do make it a little more challenging for us to hold them accountable. And that's sort of playing a role in some of the issues we're seeing at the moment.
Well, there will be a second juvenile justice hearing in November. Next year's session begins in January.
Others blame new juvenile laws for people not being held accountable. Pastor P.M. Smith, who spent time working with youth in Baltimore, blames the governor.
Total culpability is on the legislature because they could do something. They have the authority. They just won't. Our governor could call a special session. He has authority. He just won't. There will be no accountability. I don't care how much the mayor talks about it. I don't care how much Mr. Moore talks about it. I don't care how much the legislators talk about it, Mr. Ferguson or Ms. Jones, until you exercise the authority that you have to curb that behavior. Maybe not change it, but curb it. So there's blood on their hands, whether it's the young person dying or the young person injuring and killing somebody else.
Well, House Speaker Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. If you'd like them to address juvenile justice laws with more urgency, we have their phone numbers and email addresses on the screen. To reach Speaker Jones, you can call 410-841-3800. For Senate President Ferguson, call 410-841-3600.
If you would like to connect with more of your elected leaders, our website makes it easy. Go to foxbaltimore.com, click the menu at the top left of your screen, and then you can select lawmakers. From there, you can enter your home address to find the officials who represent you at the local, state, and federal levels. Fox 45 News is pushing for solutions to Baltimore's auto theft crisis. We did the math. If cars continue to be stolen at this rate, the city will see a total of about 10,500 auto thefts in 2023. Alexa Ashwell has been questioning police and local leaders. She joins us with the city's latest response. Alexa.
Yes, Mary, we know this has been a problem for months. The city has been experiencing a dramatic spike in auto thefts, a more than 200% increase compared to this time last year. We've been questioning police and lawmakers what's being done to address this issue. Baltimore City Councilman Zeke Cohen will be introducing a resolution that he says will bring all agencies to the table during tonight's City Council meeting. Take a listen.
This is a major quality of life and public safety problem. And to me, it drives people out of our city. I hear time and time again just a deep well of frustration with car thefts. And the reality is that it can also very quickly turn violent. I remember not too long ago, a constituent of mine was carjacked in Canton, and his uncle came out and confronted the carjackers, and that ended in a murder, in the loss of his life.
Now, Councilman Cohen is talking about a murder that happened 1 month ago. An entire month has since passed. Meanwhile, hundreds of cars have been stolen since then. And to date, there have been more than 7,400 auto thefts reported in Baltimore so far this year. So we question Cohen, who is running for council president, why now and why he hasn't taken action sooner. Do you feel that you and other lawmakers should have done something sooner?
I think that we're all working together to solve this crisis. And it is a huge issue, not just, again, in Baltimore, but in so many of these jurisdictions. And I think it takes an approach where everybody is at the table.
So that resolution set to be introduced in less than an hour. But as we know, Kai Mary, this is time sensitive. More than 24 auto thefts are reported with each passing day. More questions for leaders and another victim story at 5. For now, reporting live in North Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. If you have a car stolen story or know somebody who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, we want to hear about it. Scan the QR code on your screen, tell us what happened, or send us an email at foxbaltimore.com.
The Harford County Executive and Harford County State's Attorney accuse each other of playing political games. The latest developments in the Harford County spying controversy.
The latest round of state test results raising red flags in the city. Project Baltimore taking a closer look at just how many schools are failing to help students succeed.
Massive bus failures continue in Howard County with students suffering. Next, what we know about a work session as parents call for solutions.
And skies may be clearing out now with temperatures gorgeous in the 70s, but our eyes are on next weekend. Something could be brewing in the tropics, and it could have impacts here. I'm going to let you know what the chances are in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Nearly a month into the new school year, Howard County's bus troubles continue. Students are being picked up and dropped off late. Now the school board will hold a special meeting to discuss those problems. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor joins us live right now with calls for accountability. Rebecca.
Yeah, Kai, that meeting is expected to start here in about 15 minutes, and it's expected to be heavily attended. At the last school board meeting, we saw dozens of parents showing up with signs and eager to voice their frustrations. As we have been reporting for weeks now, at the root of this issue is a new out-of-state bus contractor. Last year, Howard County Public Schools signing Zoom Transportation from California to a 3-year, $81 million contract. But on the first day of school, dozens of bus routes were either late or suddenly canceled. And now, almost a month into the school year, parents say the problems persist. Zoom claims they're grappling with a bus driver shortage, while the district says this year's changes to school start times are making matters worse due to traffic delays. As a short-term fix, the school system superintendent, Michael Martirano, announced that he will be shifting school start times again. Some schools will start 10 minutes earlier. Others will start a few minutes later. It's a solution parents are skeptical of.
If they can't get her there at 8 a.m., how are they going to get her there at 7:50 in the morning? I worry that she'll just be even later to school.
A lot of us are concerned that we're going to be in the winter months without a real solution to what's going on now.
Now, those new school start times are scheduled to begin this Wednesday, but we'll see if that is still the case after parents voice their concerns at tonight's school board meeting. Reporting live from Howard County, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, taking a live look outside at the Inner Harbor and Towson. After a rainy start to our day, things look like they have cleared up very nicely.
They look really nice out there, Mary. In fact, Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is here right now with the latest on what we can expect through the rest of the week, and we are expecting nice weather.
We're
he is
expecting
updating
Jonathan
that forecast. That's how busy
right.
Jonathan
I was just
Myers
told I was needed over here at the desk.
Updating that forecast.
Yeah, I was just getting some sun out there. I mean, beautiful, beautiful day.
We know you got a little bit this weekend.
Sure
we can
I
see
spent some time on the boat this weekend on Saturday, and it was fantastic. But Sunday, yeah, we got some rain, and now we're back to the nice weather for now. But things are going to be changing for the wetter over the next couple of days, or actually I should say in the next several days we're going to see sun. But as we head towards a couple of days in the weekend, that's when we could be seeing some other issues heading our way. So take a look at the HD radar. Our latest weather maker continues to move out. This is what gave us the rain for our Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, especially south of Baltimore. Boy, got hammered. I know down by my house in Anne Arundel County got some pretty good rain overnight. There's still another batch of showers east of Pittsburgh. Some of these, maybe a slim chance, slim risk of getting a couple of these showers could be moving our way for late this afternoon, this evening. For now, it's partly to mostly sunny. It's going to be a race to sunset with some of those leftover showers. 78 degrees right now with the wind out of the northwest at 11. Looking great on that Toyota Inner Harbor Skycam. A little bit of a bobble there with those winds coming in, a little bit gusty at times. The dew point, the measure of moisture there, still a little on the high side. So that's why I think a couple of these showers and light sprinkles could make the trip over the Appalachians, and especially north and west of the city could get maybe a raindrop or two, but nothing that's really going to impact travel plans. Drying out behind all this, and notice this front that's hanging out down south and east of the Carolinas as well as Georgia. That could have some implications later. Don't look real sinister right now. Actually, the biggest thing out in the Atlantic is Nigel. That's a hurricane. Could become a potentially major hurricane over the next several days, but this thing is just going to affect the fish. There's also now a high chance of development that's moving its way off of the African coastline. 70% chance of development in the next about 7 days. And then there's this, a 30% chance of development. Yes, that's that front I was saying, just kind of hanging there off of the Gulf Stream. And later on this week, this is what I'm talking about as we head through Friday. Notice the clouds increasing once again. And then Saturday, what is this? This could be a subtropical system. It's got a 30% chance of development now off the coast of the Carolinas. So it should be inland, as you see here, as it makes its way north. If it makes its way north, things can change, as we know, with tropics. But it could be a hybrid type system with some wind, some rain, and maybe even a little bit of minor coastal flooding. That's something we're going to have to watch as we get into later Saturday and Sunday. That's one computer model rendition right now. Future scan as we head through the rest of the afternoon and this evening through about sunset. There is a stray risk of a shower here or there. Otherwise, looking good overnight. Temperatures cooling down into the 50s. Could even almost be in the 40s north and west. And some gorgeous days to come before, again, those couple of rain chances as we head towards the weekend. For Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, going all into the low 80s, upper 70s as fall starts on Saturday. This is when we have to watch Saturday late into Sunday.
Jonathan, thank you. The man accused of shooting 2 officers in Harford County back in court today, while the suspect's defense team is demanding a delay. 40% of schools did not have a single student test proficient in math. The troubling new data from another round of testing in Baltimore City schools. And celebration big time as the Baltimore Orioles clinch a playoff spot. But there's still a lot of baseball left in the regular season. Breaking down what comes next in their fight to win the division.
Into center field. This should do it. Margot going back. It does not matter. Adley Rutschman will score. And the Orioles, who clinched a postseason berth just a few minutes ago, seal their fate with a walk-off win.
People cried when they saw that. I think in the biggest game of the season so far, the Orioles stepped up and punched their ticket to the playoffs with a dramatic walk-off win. This year will be the first postseason appearance since 2016. Fox 45's Morgan Outsett joins us now with more on what comes next. Morgan.
Yeah, the Orioles didn't even have to lift a finger Sunday afternoon to clinch. The Orioles and Rays both clinched yesterday when the game was in the 9th once the Rangers lost, and the O's did not let up. They beat the Rays in an extra inning walk-off fashion to keep the AL East lead at 2 games. Also proving what we've been saying all season long, it is not a homer hose, it's a beer bong. We have proof. By now, the champagne and beer is dry, perhaps some headaches and sleepy birds, but they're on their way to Houston, already there. Postseason spot clinched, at worst a wild card, and they are eyeing what happened in 2014, a division title with October baseball running through Camden Yards.
feel like this has kind of been built for the last 2 years, and to make it this year is such an awesome step to take. I know these guys aren't satisfied. We're ready for the next thing, but we're going to celebrate this right now.
Take it with a grain of salt. It's a baseball game. We got 50-something losses this year. We've lost games too. We know what it feels like to lose. Turn the page, move on to the next day, build a new plan, stick to it as an entire group, and that's what we're going to keep doing the rest of this year. We're not going to be complacent with it. We're celebrating right now, but we're going to move right into the next series.
All right, so they're in, but the magic number for the Orioles wins and or Rays losses is now 10 entering Monday's action with 13 games left. That is to win the AL East. The O's are away until September 26th. There's no relief for the Orioles this week at all after clinching at Houston, at Cleveland. Both teams fighting for their own division titles. At worst for them, wild cards.
Morgan, thank you. Well, fans could not be more excited for postseason baseball. Let's take a look at some of the reaction pouring in after the O's won last night. Fans on Twitter saying they are so proud of the team. They were getting emotional just watching the end of the game. Others saying this is one of their favorite Orioles teams they have ever seen. And look at this, Adam on Twitter saying this young fan is going to end up as a catcher or as the Oriole bird after being inspired by the team this year for sure. The Orioles GM getting in on the excitement. Oh, that's video from the clubhouse last night. Mike Elias getting in on the celebrations with the players. Oh, champagne all day. It's incredible what the team has been able to do this season with one of the lowest payrolls in baseball, according to the experts. Well, to keep up with the rest of the season and the O's playoff run, tune into Rip and Rock podcast every week. Sports Unlimited, Rocco DeSangro, and former professional baseball player Ryan Ripken. They break down the latest in Orioles baseball. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. The Harford County State's attorney accusing the county executive of retaliating against her. The battle happening right now over privacy concerns. There are over a dozen schools without a single passing student among those tested. Project Baltimore sounding the alarm over another round of troubling test scores in Baltimore City schools. And a top local doctor urging people to change how they think about the COVID vaccine. We hear from Dr. Robert Redfield about if and when you should get a new shot.
I, as your state's attorney, want to state publicly that I will not be bullied or retaliated against.
Allison Healy, throughout this nonsense of this criminal referral to the Office of Special Prosecutor because she wanted to try to embarrass me, and that was come back on her.
It is a mess of political infighting among Republican politicians in Harford County. State's Attorney Allison Healy now accuses County Executive Bob Casserly of retaliating against her.
That's right. And the accusation comes after she referred a criminal complaint about Casserly to the state prosecutor earlier this summer. Fox 45's Amy Simpson has been following this story for months. She joins us in studio now to explain the next chapter in this saga. Amy?
So this ties back to those allegations. The county executive spied on a county councilman, the sheriff, and several others earlier this year. County Executive Bob Casserly has since told me that his office did view emails as part of an internal investigation after being accused of misusing county money. But when those allegations of spying and illegal wiretapping first surfaced, Harford County State's Attorney Allison Healy says she sent the criminal complaint to the state prosecutor, saying she felt it needed an independent, unbiased investigation.
Good morning. I want to thank you all for coming.
Today, a new wrinkle in the Harford County privacy debate.
I attempted to resolve the issue professionally, but I have been ignored.
Harford County State's Attorney Allison Healy says a critical member of her staff is out on extended emergency leave.
With the approval of the Harford County Department of Human Resources.
But information and communications now trapped in that staff email account, Healy says are critical to the inner workings of the state's attorney's office.
These emails include invoices, contracts, personnel actions, and state and federal grant correspondence that simply cannot be ignored for any period of time.
Today, Healy going public, saying when her office requested access to that email account, which is held on Harford County servers, County Executive Bob Casserly's administration said no.
Is refusing to provide access to this important information to which I am entitled in retaliation for my referral of a recent investigation into their conduct.
Healy accuses the Casserly administration of holding her office's data hostage. The state's attorney now wants an independent data server, also planning to take Casserly to court, looking for a judge to order the information to be released.
Ms. Healy asked my office and me to provide her with emails owned by someone else on the county server. Folks, that's exactly the conduct for which she referred me and my office to the Office of State Prosecutor. It's the same conduct.
Casserly showing up at this morning's press conference in Bel Air, addressing the cameras himself, claiming this very public political infighting has deeper ties to issues playing out in Harford County's Republican base.
They're pissed off, and that's why they're coming after me right now. This is political theatrics. This is a political hit job.
Casserly not denying withholding the information from the state's attorney's office, but rebukes those claims of retaliation.
That's absurd. No retribution, no retaliation. What's absurd is that she turns to me and says, hey, what I just have asked you to be indicted for, the same conduct, I want you to now do it because it would benefit me. I'm like, what are you kidding me? This is Keystone Cops?
Meanwhile, Councilman Aaron Penman, who originally levied that charge of spying against the county executive, now calling on Casserly to step down.
I think he needs to take a leave of absence.
The Office of the Maryland State Prosecutor does not confirm the existence of any investigations, but in a press release today, Councilman Aaron Penman claims recent evidence of a grand jury subpoena indicates there's more going on behind the scenes. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Well, the trial for a Baltimore County man who led police on a days-long manhunt could be delayed. David Linthicum is accused of shooting two police officers during that search across Harford and Baltimore counties back in February. His defense team says the prosecution has been slow to provide them with key evidence, making it impossible for the defense to be ready for the November trial. A judge today scheduled another hearing for early October to decide if a delay is necessary. Linthicum is charged with 3 counts of attempted murder and an armed carjacking.
New tonight, Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates releases an updated version of the city's do not call list, which bars certain officers from testifying in court.
The few in uniform who gamble with the credibility of the department and the integrity of my prosecutor's cases must be identified for the sake of accountability.
Well, the list targets officers who have acted in ways that could bring their testimony into question. That behavior includes things like making false reports or having a pending criminal case against an officer. The state's attorney can also put officers on the list at his discretion based on behaviors he believes disqualifies them from testifying. For more information on the changes to the Do Not Call list, head to foxbaltimore.com.
The latest round of state test results raises alarm in some Baltimore City schools, and now we're getting a detailed look into just how bad it is. Project Baltimore's Chris Papps obtained the results for every school in Baltimore City, and what he found is hard to believe.
When the state officially releases the test scores for every public school in Maryland later this month, the results will likely be heavily redacted, meaning parents and taxpayers will not be able to see how poorly many schools are performing. But we were given the unredacted scores from a source inside Baltimore City Public Schools. We found 40% of the Baltimore City high schools where the exam was given had 0 students score proficient in math. Students took the test in the spring of 2023, just a few months ago. We found 13 city high schools where not one student who took the state math test scored proficient. Not one student. These are the 13 high schools, which includes some of the city's most well-known high schools, including Patterson, Frederick Douglass, and Reginald F. Lewis. In total, students at 33 city high schools took the state math exam last spring. In our analysis, we are not including Eager Street Academy because it's located in the Baltimore City Detention Center. Of the 32 high schools remaining, if 13 have 0 students who tested proficient, that means 40% of Baltimore City high schools could not produce a single student who was proficient in math. Jason Rodriguez is with People Empowered by the Struggle, a nonprofit that in 2021 held rallies calling for Baltimore City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises to resign, in part because of low test scores.
We're still dealing with these same issues year after year. It's just scary to me and alarming to me because we know that what's happening now, is just opening up the floodgates to the school to prison pipeline.
6 years ago, in 2017, Project Baltimore produced a similar story where we analyzed state test results and found 13 city high schools where not a single student who took the test scored proficient. Coming up tonight on Fox 45 News at 10, we're going to show you what schools were on the list in 2017 that are still on the list in 2023. I'm Chris Papps, and this is Project Baltimore.
Well, Fox 45 News is waiting to learn more about the search for a replacement after Maryland State School Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry formally withdrew his request for a second term.
In a statement to school officials, Chaudhry says that he's working to pursue other opportunities. Chaudhry was appointed to the role 2 years ago, but it wasn't long before some staff members complained his leadership style created a toxic work environment.
And earlier this year, Project Baltimore reported Chaudhry had removed tested data from the state website and was using an encrypted messaging app to communicate with fellow staff members. This comes less than a week after Governor Wes Moore demanded better from state schools.
Part of the challenge that we have with the structure is that the governor doesn't decide that. I want transparency, I want accountability, and I want a superintendent that believes in it and can deliver it. The results we're seeing right now are not satisfactory results, and I demand better, and we need to make sure that we're getting better results for our kids.
That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think Governor Moore made the right call weighing in on the superintendent's contract? So far, 92% of people who voted say yes. You can make your voice heard right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Fall and winter are coming, and with that change in seasons comes a surge in respiratory viruses like the flu and COVID. Now, with cases on the rise, new COVID vaccines are being distributed across the country. The new shots are intended to protect against the latest strains of the virus. This morning, Fox 45's Patrice Sanders spoke with an infectious disease expert about a new way to think about COVID vaccinations.
A new COVID vaccine was just approved by the FDA, and doctors are advising that children and adults get it as we head into the cold and flu season. Now, this comes as we've seen an uptick in COVID cases since July. Across the U.S., we're averaging 200 to 300 COVID deaths each day. Dr. Robert Redfield, an infectious disease and internal medicine physician at GBMC Health Partners Primary Care, says COVID is here to stay. It will be with us for a lifetime, and it's a matter of knowing who needs to get the vaccine and when.
One of the things I do in my practice is try to help people navigate that strategy for what's the right timing for them for recurrent COVID vaccination. I ask people to think of the COVID vaccine not as a vaccine. Most of us think of a vaccine sort of, you've done it and it's done. It was a little misleading at the beginning when the public health officials said, you know, that I was fully vaccinated when you got your first 2 vaccines. Well, you never really were fully vaccinated. And it turns out I'd like people to think of the vaccine more like a medicine. It's something that works for you if you take it as often as you need it. Some of us probably need it every 3 months, some every 4 months, some every 6 months, maybe some even every 8 months or even a year. But it's that variability.
COVID is now the 4th leading cause of death in the U.S. behind heart disease, cancer, and illicit drug use. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
You may have problems finding some Clorox products at your local store. The company says it was hit by a cyber attack which slowed production. While the company believes it contained the attack, it has not been able to get its manufacturing operations up to speed. Clorox saw severe product shortages during the pandemic and is preparing for another demand spike with the flu and COVID seasons looming. A government shutdown is looming as well. Republican lawmakers passed a tentative spending bill, but not all in the GOP are on board with it.
I'm Kayla Gaskins. Coming up, shocking video captures the migrant crisis rocking communities nationwide.
And if you have some plans on doing some maybe weekend holdover grilling for your Monday evening, temperatures fall from the 70s into the 60s. Could see a stray sprinkle, otherwise partly to mostly clear skies. I'm going to let you know we could have a lot more rain coming our way, and it could be tropical troubles. That's at my Weather Authority forecast.
President Biden projected confidence when it comes to the new Republican impeachment inquiry that the House GOP launched last week. President Biden was involved in his son Hunter's foreign business dealings while serving as vice president. Other House investigations have failed to provide proof of those accusations. The White House says the president has done nothing wrong. Border Patrol agents have begun releasing migrants in Arizona and California as some sectors deal with up to 2,000 apprehensions a day. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has more on the crisis.
As the number of migrants attempting to cross the southern border illegally continues to rise, new video emerging showing a train full of migrants cheering as they make their way through Mexico to the southern border. Communities struggling to handle the surge. In Manhattan, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and fellow Democrats heckled by protesters during a press conference on the migrant crisis there.
Is extension of temporary protected status for Venezuelans who are the largest population that are arriving here.
As residents grow frustrated with their local leaders like New York Mayor Eric Adams point fingers at the White House.
We're stating this condition have a real destructive part to it that is going to have a rippling effect throughout our entire city.
Adams demanding federal dollars to deal with what he sees as a federal problem. Sources close to Hillary Clinton telling NBC New York she's siding with Adams, urging Biden to do more. To draw attention to the crisis, Texas Governor Greg Abbott continuing to send migrants to self-proclaimed sanctuary cities such as New York and Chicago. The progressive mayor of Los Angeles fears her city might be the next target.
For here, you know, it has fortunately been manageable. I am fearful that any day planes could start coming.
While migrants have also been bused to Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Denver, New York is the only one with right to shelter laws, meaning they must care for the migrants who arrive there. Mayor Eric Adams predicts this care will cost New York City $12 billion over the next 3 years. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting.
And here's a live look right now at our U.S. Capitol, where lawmakers are struggling to pass a government funding bill. The country is less than 2 weeks away from the funding deadline. 6 Republican members of the House, 3 from the House Freedom Caucus, and 3 met with the Main Street Caucus, closed a deal Sunday on a short-term spending plan that they hope will prevent a shutdown. But it's not clear if that will get broader support that it needs.
A number of members of your conference have already said, tweeting last night, that they're not a fan of this plan and that they would definitely vote no on it. I mean,
well, that's difficult. I mean, the Freedom Caucus and the Main Street are one that came up with the plan. So have they read it yet? I mean, the one thing I always know with members, sometimes they haven't read all the way through it. Let's let them understand what it is and see where they are.
Now, this agreement includes a 31-day continuing resolution, a border security package, and an 8% cut on non-defense programs. Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz and Dan Bishop, both with the House Freedom Caucus, are opposed to the plan as it would drain remaining funding for the caucus. If lawmakers fail to agree on a government funding bill, many Americans could feel that impact. National parks will close. The funding freeze will likely have staffing impacts at TSA checkpoints, leading to travel complications, and people who receive Social Security and Medicare could potentially see a stop on benefit verification or not have their cards issued. A new poll reveals only about a third of Americans think President Biden would complete a second term if he were to get elected or reelected. According to a CBS poll, 44% believe the 80-year-old would leave before it ends. 55% think former President Trump, who's 77, would finish a full term if elected next year. Just 26% of the people that were polled believe Biden has the mental and cognitive health to serve as president versus 44% who say the same about Trump.
All right, we are tracking the latest weather maker as it now makes an exit off the New England shoreline. New York all the way up to New England, still getting some rain, and there are a few showers that are still in western central PA, even a couple of rumbles of thunder here. That moving south and east, and it's really going to kind of be a race to sunset for these because Once sunset comes, these are going to die out, but there could be a stray shower out of that, especially the farther north and west you get. Outside of that, it's really not going to be a big travel issue. You've got some sunshine here in Baltimore, looking good on the Toyota East Unit Harbor Sky Camp. Still a little touch of mugginess, but those winds out of the northwest at about 11 miles an hour also bobbling our camera around, doing their work to bring in some somewhat drier air, and it's going to feel a lot better tonight and tomorrow. Humidity 50%, dew points falling from about 58 degrees, which is our measure of moisture in the air. It's a little, again, kind of muggy. You can still feel the air, but that is gradually getting better. The latest weather maker, again, kind of hanging out off the coast now with showers moving to New England. We are drying out behind it. The southern periphery of this is hanging out, is going to stall over a portion of the Gulf Stream, which is very warm water. So that is something we're going to have to watch here as we head through the next few days. With the steering currents, looks like anything that would form potentially down there could be dragged northbound. So that's something to watch for this weekend. We'll get into that here in a second. Now, big hurricane potentially. Nigel could become a Category 2, Category 3 over the next several days, but that will just affect the fish. Then, far away over the eastern Atlantic, there's a high chance of development. It hasn't even formed into anything yet, but we're watching for the potential 70% chance that we could have our next tropical depression over the next maybe, say, 5 to 7 days there. And then there's this 30% chance of development that's offshore of Georgia and the Carolinas. That looks like it could maybe attain some subtropical, in other words, kind of hybrid characteristics, maybe like a combination nor'easter tropical system, and then it could drag northbound. So this is our GFS Future Scan computer model. Look at this by Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and Sunday. The potential here is some rain out of that. That is something to watch. There could also be even some wind and potentially even some coastal flooding. So that's something to watch. It looks like if it does pass near us, it should be inland as it does so, but it's something to watch once again. So Future Scan overnight into early tomorrow morning. Through sunset, there could be a stray shower. Otherwise, gorgeous overnight into early tomorrow morning. Look at those temperatures settling to 54 at Westminster. Temperature at 60 here in Baltimore late night, and I think we'll be in the 50s most areas by early tomorrow morning. 84 tomorrow. Gorgeous days Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We enter fall on Saturday, and then we have to watch that system to the south Saturday afternoon on into Sunday.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock tonight, we're hearing from sheriffs across the state on what needs to be done to tackle juvenile crime. Also ahead, student loan payments are back. How that return could rip billions of dollars out of Americans' pockets. A team from the White House is visiting Detroit to help resolve a major auto worker strike. Members of the UAW, the United Auto Workers Union, want higher pay, 32-hour work weeks, and better retirement pensions. General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis, which makes Dodge Chrysler, gave a new offer to the union last week, but did not meet the UAW's targets.
New generation of workers aren't making a fair wage. They can barely make it. They deserve a living wage, and they need to be brought up to what we make.
Well, that strike started on Friday after both sides couldn't come to a contract agreement. The White House team plans to visit those on the picket lines later this week. With student loan payments resuming, Americans are set to lose billions of dollars. A recent Wall Street Journal report finds up to $100 billion could be taken out of consumers' wallets when those payments resume October 1st. Payments were paused March 2020 during the pandemic, but now many borrowers will be paying an average of $200 to $300 a month. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, politics in Harford County. The latest on the spying accusations against the county executive. Plus, parents and students in Howard County are on edge about buses showing up late or not at all. The latest as a work session gets underway. A battle brewing over the juvenile crime crisis across Maryland. We press leaders on necessary changes to laws on the books.
Auto thefts out of control in Baltimore City. Fox 45 News demanding solutions from your elected leaders as your stories continue to come in.
It's deeply messy. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. It's unfortunate. It's embarrassing.
A heated back and forth in Harford County as top officials take aim at each other. The spying accusations prompting a fiery debate.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
Breaking news right now. This is video just back into Fox 45 from outside of Dunbar High School.
We have just confirmed a cafeteria window was shot out. School is closed for the day and no injuries have been reported. Officers have 2 juveniles in custody right now. The investigation ongoing.
To our young people, you are not outsmarting the police. You are not outmaneuvering prosecutors. You will not scare your peers into silence.
The juvenile crime crisis top of mind for leaders across our state. Many prosecutors and law enforcement saying the current laws on the books keeping them from doing their jobs. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Calls are growing louder to address those laws, specifically the Juvenile Justice Reform Act and the Child Interrogation Protection Act.
And the calls come as we see auto theft skyrocket across Baltimore. And in many instances, juveniles are the ones committing those crimes.
We have live team coverage tonight, starting with Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost, to break down where the divide is among policymakers. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Kai, so we know that Governor Wes Moore described Secretary Vincent Schiraldi as a reformer. Some of his policy stances sparked some questions from lawmakers earlier this year during the confirmation process. And now, given the pressure and the frustration that continues to build among leaders and police all across Maryland, those policy stances are back in the spotlight. And that was really on full display last week during that House Judiciary Committee. We saw Secretary Schiraldi caution lawmakers from charging some of these young kids with certain crimes.
You start to sort of think of themselves as little 12-year-old thugs, and they self-identify in ways that we really don't want them to. If they're under 13, we can provide them with services informally.
And that's really consistent with his previous policy comments that we've heard from Schiraldi earlier this year. But right now we're seeing lawmakers as well as police and other leaders push back on those claims, arguing they are seeing the real impacts from some of those decisions in their own communities.
Some people may have this idea to tell us that we actually do not see what we see. What we have in these laws, whether they are reformation laws or otherwise, what we have is the inability to see that there's a solutions from all sides. Community members have expressed to us that they will not accept this. So who are we speaking for?
And so, Mackenzie, what are lawmakers saying about this concern right now?
Well, really, this will come down to the legislative leaders, right? We know that Senate President Bill Ferguson has said to me in previous statements that the Senate is open to looking at some of the concerns that we're hearing from prosecutors and police, saying the Senate will look at the possibility of making changes, but he hasn't gone into detail about what those changes may look like specifically. Meanwhile, House Speaker Adrienne Jones says that she needs to talk with her committee chairs before making any decisions, like Delegate Luke Clippinger, who was the one who called for this House Judiciary Committee hearing last week. Over the weekend, Fox 45 News pressed Speaker Jones again about her plans.
We got plenty of time for that. There's no rush for that. I believe in doing things in decency and in order.
So again, the speaker is not committing to making any changes to the current laws. We'll likely have to wait until lawmakers return to Annapolis in January for the regular session to see any of those details become reality. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
All right, Mackenzie, thank you for that. And Fox 45 News is also pushing for solutions to Baltimore's auto theft crisis. Now, we did the math. If cars continue to be stolen at this same rate, there'll be about 10,500 auto thefts by the end of the year. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell spoke with a victim who says she's moving out of the city. Alexis joins us live right now from City Hall. Alexa.
Yes, Kai, we're told auto thefts will be discussed during tonight's Baltimore City Council meeting. It's happening right now here inside City Hall. Of course, as we know, this is time sensitive. More than 24 auto thefts are reported across the city every single day. We spoke with one woman, a victim, who says she now plans to leave the city. Here, pictures of damage to a woman's car caused by unknown suspects who she says were attempting to steal her car from outside her home in West Baltimore last week. The woman, Miss Williams, in such fear, she asked we not show her face.
We're so scared we're moving because this is the 4th time our car has been either vandalized, broke into, or stolen. I've been here for 5 years, but I can't live like this. I haven't slept since that day.
That fear, frustration, and stress felt by thousands of people across Baltimore.
They just hopped out the car and just stole it. And the way they did it, they looked like bros.
The seats were completely laid back. All the windows were broken.
It's not a matter of
hey, if my car will be stolen. No, it's when.
There have been more than 7,400 auto thefts reported in Baltimore so far this year, according to the latest statistics posted by Baltimore police. That's a 221% increase compared to this time last year. And the data also shows only about 3% of those reported thefts have ended in an arrest. For months, Fox 45 News has been questioning police, prosecutors, lawmakers, and other leaders on what's being done to address this issue. Baltimore City Councilman Zeke Cohen now introducing a resolution that he says will bring federal, state, and local partners to the table to discuss solutions.
This is a major quality of life and public safety problem, and to me, it drives people out of our city. I hear time and time again just a deep well of frustration with car thefts, and the reality is that it can also very quickly turn violent. I remember not too long ago, a constituent of mine was carjacked in Canton, and his uncle came out and confronted the carjackers, and that ended in a murder, in the loss of his life.
But Daryl Benner's murder happened exactly a month ago, and since then, hundreds more cars have been stolen. We question Cohen, why now? And why not sooner? And do you feel that you and other lawmakers should have done something sooner?
I think that we're all working together to solve this crisis, and it is a huge issue, not just, again, in Baltimore, but in so many of these jurisdictions. And I think it takes an approach where everybody is at the table.
But when? How fast do you think you can get everyone to the table? More than 24 auto thefts are reported with each passing day. Maybe a week or...
I don't want to put a timeline on it. I got to work on that with the chairman as well as the council president, but I would say as quick as possible.
As for Miss Williams, she says it's already too late. Her family's only car is no longer drivable. She's out thousands of dollars, and her sense of security gone. She's now planning to move out of Baltimore.
We're taxpayers and got to live on the edge every day, and it's sad. It's sad. I came to Baltimore for a reason, and now I'm leaving for a reason.
And another frustration, Miss Williams says it took police 2 hours to respond so she could file a report. Cohen is running for Baltimore City Council president. We'll let you know exactly what's said during tonight's meeting. Reporting live outside City Hall, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. If you have a car stolen story or know someone who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, we'd like to hear about it. Scan the QR code on your screen and tell us what happened, or send us an email at news@foxbaltimore.com. Well, young people have been accused of carjackings and thefts. Last week, state lawmakers held a hearing to address juvenile crime, but that hearing ended without a concrete plan. Now, following the hearing, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost pressed House Speaker Adrian Jones on how the General Assembly will move forward.
Do you believe that kids using guns in crimes is a problem that the House will address in January?
The Judiciary Committee will deal.
As Speaker, though, do you think that it's something that will be a priority?
The Judiciary Committee and all our committees, all their priorities.
Is it a priority for you? As a lawmaker here in Baltimore County, we saw kids using guns in Lansdowne. We've had issues with DJS.
Yes, obviously, yes. But I gotta go.
When will we see legislation to address that?
Well, we don't do session until January.
Should that change?
Excuse me?
Should that change?
Should what change?
Should there be a special session to address the juvenile crime crisis right now?
This is something I will be discussing with my chairs. I don't want to be in the media and saying, oh, Speaker didn't talk to us. We're going to be having meetings.
Well, Fox 45 News has heard from prosecutors across the state and Baltimore City, all saying their hands are tied by current laws, and now is the time for change. That group represents more than 4.5 million people. That's about 80% of Maryland's population.
If we don't do something to hold these young people accountable, they will continue to run and almost have lawlessness in our cities. And we can't have that.
Some of our laws that have been passed recently do make it a little more challenging for us to hold them accountable. And that's sort of playing a role in some of the issues we're seeing at the moment.
There will be a second juvenile justice hearing in November. Next year's session begins in January.
Others are pointing fingers when it comes to who's to blame for the rise in juvenile crime and the difficulty holding juveniles accountable. Pastor P.M. Smith, who has spent time working with young people in Baltimore, blames the governor and other lawmakers.
total culpability is on the legislature because they could do something. They have the authority. They just won't. Our governor could call a special session. He has authority. He just won't. There will be no accountability. I don't care how much the mayor talks about it. I don't care how much Mr. Moore talks about it. I don't care how much the legislators talk about it, Mr. Ferguson or Ms. Jones, until you exercise the authority that you have to curb that behavior. Maybe not change it, but curb it. So there's blood on their hands, whether it's the young person dying or the young person injuring and killing somebody else.
House Speaker Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. If you'd like to contact them about juvenile justice laws, we have their phone numbers and email addresses on the screen. To reach Speaker Jones, you can call 410-841-3800. For Senate President Ferguson, call 410-841-3600.
And if you would like to connect with more of your elected leaders, our website makes it easy. Go to foxbaltimore.com, click on the menu at the top left of your screen and select Lawmakers. From there, you can enter your home address to find the officials who represent you at the local, state, and federal levels. Well, still ahead tonight, tensions rising in Harford County as spying accusations prompt a fiery back and forth among county leaders. The accusations of retaliation.
New efforts to avoid a government shutdown, the bill introduced, and what it could mean for you if there is a shutdown.
And after a couple of good bouts of rain, maybe your lawn needs a mow. I know I mowed mine this morning before work, and, well, the weather wasn't bad for it. Still stays pretty nice. 76 at 6, 7 p.m. temperature at 74 and 72 at 8. Could see a stray shower spritz. Shouldn't really cancel your plans, but I will let you know when we could have some heavy rain and maybe tropical rain. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
The Orioles
Orioles are postseason bound for the first time in 7 years, clinching Sunday afternoon, and they didn't even have to lift a finger. The Orioles and Rays both clinched yesterday when their game was in the ninth, once the Rangers lost, and then the O's did not let up. They then beat the Rays in extra-inning walk-off fashion to keep the AL East lead at 2 games. By now, the champagne and beer is dry, perhaps some headaches and sleepy birds, but they're on to Houston. Postseason spot clinched. At worst, they're a wild card, but they are eyeing what happened back in 2014, a division title with October baseball running through Camden Yards.
I feel like this has kind of been building for the last 2 years, and to make it this year is such an awesome step to take. I know these guys aren't satisfied. We're ready for the next thing, but we're going to celebrate this right now.
Take it with a grain of salt. It's a baseball game. We got 50-something losses this year. We've lost games too. We know what it feels like to lose. Turn the page, move on to the next day, build a new plan, stick to it as an entire group, and that's what we're going to keep doing the rest of this year. We're not going to be complacent with it. We're celebrating right now, but we're going to move right into the next series.
The Orioles' AL East magic number for Orioles wins and or Rays losses is now 10 entering today's action with 13 games left. The O's are away until September 26. There's no relief, though, for the Orioles this week after clinching at Houston and at Cleveland. Both teams are fighting for their own division titles and wild cards.
Morgan, thank you. To keep up with the rest of the season and the O's playoff run, tune into the Rip and Rock podcast every week. Sports Unlimited's Rocco DeSangro and former professional baseball player Ryan Ripken break down the latest in O's baseball. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, taking a live look across Maryland tonight, fall officially kicks off this Saturday, and many are looking to the leaves to see the colors change and know when the season is changing. The Maryland Department of Natural Resources is presenting its weekly fall foliage report to give Marylanders the opportunity to stay up to date and find out where the pretty views are. As of tonight, Garrett County, the only county seeing some change in colors. Experts predict the rest of the state will see peak fall colors by mid-October, with the ultimate peak around October 23rd. Well, it was definitely feeling like fall this morning, but the heat, it could be returning. Let's get right over to Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers. Jonathan.
Yeah, that damp, rainy, wet feel, kind of cool feel this morning. Fall does arrive 2:50 a.m. That's going to be Saturday early morning. And I know at my house, we've had a lot of yellow and dead leaves. I think that's actually kind of part and parcel of the fact that we had such a dry portion of late spring, early summer. A lot of those leaves just couldn't take all that kind of drought hardiness that they needed. But the real change is coming, and it's coming over the next few weeks. So get ready for the big show from Mother Nature that we all look forward to. Now, Mother Nature also putting on a show this morning. I know at my house in Anne Arundel County, the rain came down in buckets for a time. That all now moving all the way up into New England. Still some showers that are on the backside of this latest weather maker that are out toward Pittsburgh and central Pennsylvania. Those moving eastbound. There could be a sprinkle or a light shower, even though right now it's sunny on the Mile 1 Tascam and 78, but there could be a sprinkler or light shower out of some clouds billowing off toward north and west, rolling in just towards sunset. Then we clear out, and it's a beautiful few days before things get a little more interesting and maybe tropically interesting by the end of the week, especially really this upcoming weekend. Winds out of the northwest at 11 right now. Humidity levels dropping nicely into the 40% range in the wake of our latest weather maker. Notice this cold front down to the south, bringing in drier air for now, but this front is sitting in kind of a bad place. That's over the very warm waters of the Gulf Stream. Those temperatures 80, 85 degrees on the Gulf Stream right now. So if it sits there a while, could add something a little more than we're seeing right now, maybe tropically later this week into the weekend. Nigel, that is a hurricane. Now that is moving its way into the open Atlantic and shouldn't affect anyone except the shipping lanes. There's a 70% chance of development. That's something to watch, but that's way out toward Africa. And then there's this, the tail end of that front I was talking about. Notice a 0% chance of development now, but eventually about 7 days, 5-7 days, 30% chance of development here. And what does develop? If it develops, not all computer models say it will happen, but if it does develop, could be subtropical, kind of a hybrid tropical / maybe like nor'easter system. Could provide, yes, as it moves north, could provide some rain around here, maybe some wind later Saturday into Sunday, and maybe even some high seas and maybe even some coastal flooding. So this is something to watch as we head towards this weekend. Could be kind of a rain out, but again, still a few days off. Future scan overnight. Evening showers, those then dissipate by about midnight. We should be clearing out. Temperatures quickly falling down into the 50s. We're in the 50s overnight, 80 tomorrow. Gorgeous day Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. First day of fall on Saturday with a chance of showers and maybe the breeze is picking up. It looks like windy, maybe rainy overnight Saturday night into early Sunday.
Still ahead tonight, school bus chaos continues in Howard County. Parents are making their concerns heard. And Stop the Sprawl. Harford County residents voicing frustration over proposed apartment developments. We sit down with the county executive.
Will surge pricing be the new normal across industries? I'm Atrell Nashar with how algorithms are putting customers and companies in a tricky spot.
Topping your consumer news today, taking you live to London tonight. That's actually the Abbey Road crossing, famous for the Beatles, of course, where the largest pub company, Stonegate, is under heat for rolling out what critics call a reverse happy hour, charging more for drinks during busy times. Surge pricing has been around a long time for travel bookings and concert tickets, but it is catching on in other industries, it appears. National correspondent Atrell Nashar reports.
Americans pinched by high inflation sometimes find themselves up against another headache: surge pricing. Getting hit with a premium price tag when booking a popular flight around the holidays or paying an arm and a leg for a sold-out concert ticket are things people have come to expect. But could surge pricing, also known as dynamic pricing, catch on in other industries? With the rise of AI and algorithms helping businesses analyze supply and demand in real time, could it also be used to determine prices in real time? Similar price modeling backfired for AMC. Earlier this year, the movie theater company said it would roll out a pricing system that adjusted ticket prices during peak times based on where viewers sit.
If you read every reaction to this news, not a single one has been positive.
AMC tested the initiative in 3 cities and in July announced it would be phased out, citing the need to keep up with its competitors that did not change their pricing. Dartmouth's Tuck School of Business professor Rob Shumsky says that's where market forces come into play.
Consumers will walk away. They will gravitate towards firms that have more predictable prices and more transparent prices.
Research by Capterra suggests it would be hard for dynamic pricing to catch on in the competitive restaurant industry. 42% of customers said it would push them to order out less often or not at all. Shumsky says it can benefit consumers during off-peak times.
If you're a customer who can more easily adjust the time you want a service, you might be getting lower prices because of dynamic pricing.
One company that's reaped the benefits of pricing algorithms in recent years is Levi's, which uses machine learning to detect trends and issue discounts strategically, boosting revenue.
As companies adopt automated surge pricing, they may run into trouble with a patchwork of state price gouging laws that prohibit excessive price increases during times of emergency. In Washington, I'm Atrel Nishar.
Well, taking a live look at our nation's capital right now, there is a House agreement to avoid a government shutdown, but it likely won't move forward. House Republicans put out a bill on Sunday to keep federal funding going through the end of October. The legislation still has to pass the House, and the Senate will probably not move the measure forward. As of now, the government is funded through the end of this month, September. A federal shutdown could impact everyday Americans. According to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, you could get turned away from visiting a national park during a federal shutdown. Your travel plans during a shutdown could be impacted, too, because there may be TSA delays or other issues with air traffic control. And people who receive Social Security and Medicare could potentially see a stop on benefit verification or not have their cards issued at all. Well, coming up after the break, tensions rising in Harford County as top leaders take aim at one another. Why the county executive says he's being targeted in a political hit job. Plus, new efforts to ensure reliable transportation for Howard County students. The hearing happening right now addressing the ongoing school bus troubles. A mess of political infighting continues among Republican politicians in Harford County.
State's Attorney Allison Healy now accuses County Executive Bob Casserly of retaliating against her after she referred a criminal complaint about Casserly to the state prosecutor earlier this summer.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson's been following this story for several months. It's taken many twists and turns. She joins us now in studio to explain what's going on now. Amy?
Yeah, so Mary Kai, this all ties back to those allegations that the county executive was spying on a county councilman earlier this year. County Executive Bob Casserly has since told me that his office did view emails as part of an internal investigation after he was accused of misusing county money. But when those allegations of spying and illegal wiretapping first surfaced a few months ago, Harford County State's Attorney Allison Healy says she referred the issue to the state prosecutor, saying it needed an independent, unbiased investigation. Well, fast forward to today, the state's attorney says a critical member of her staff is now on an extended emergency leave, and her office needs access to that staffer's email account, which receives, she says, important contracts and invoices. In a press conference in Bel Air this morning, Healy claims the Casserly administration is holding that information hostage, not granting access to the information or the email account on a Harford County server. She calls the move retaliatory, immature, and political gamesmanship.
Our citizens deserve better than the Casserly administration's actions and decisions in harming the functions of the state's attorney's office by holding our office communications hostage as an act of retaliation against me.
And Amy, how is the county executive responding to the state's attorney's claim of retaliation today?
So, Mary, it was actually a bit awkward. County Executive Bob Casserly showed up at the state's attorney's press conference this morning in Bel Air. He clearly wanted to address the cameras himself, but he claims this political infighting has deeper ties to issues playing out in Harford County's Republican base right now.
That's absurd. No retribution, no retaliation. What's absurd is that she turns to me and says, hey, what I just have asked you to be indicted for, the same conduct, I want you to now do it because it would benefit me. I'm like, what are you kidding me? This is Keystone Cops? And they're pissed off, and that's why they're coming after me right now. This is political theatrics. This is a political hit job.
Meanwhile, the Office of the State Prosecutor does not confirm the existence of any investigations. But in a press release this morning, Councilman Aaron Penman claims recent evidence of a grand jury subpoena on this matter indicates there's more going on behind the scenes. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. Also in Harford County, there's a battle over a proposed Fallston Apartments housing development. Today on Fox 45 Morning News, we spoke to the county executive about the controversial back and forth. Tom Rogers explains.
A battle over apartments versus property zoned business only continues to heat up in Harford County. A developer proposing a large dwelling complex in Fallston, just off Route 1, and many residents quickly jumped on to say no, with signs reading, "Stop the sprawl." Residents gaining County Executive Bob Casserly's ear, and he agrees the complex is in the wrong zoning and would cause too much issues with infrastructure, traffic, and school needs. But his proposal to stop all large-scale dense housing did not get the 4 votes needed to pass through the county council. Casserly suggesting it's all politics and power.
Well, the accusing council member who's accused me, this is his 3rd allegation of impropriety by my administration, has long been a very favored proponent for the developer of this housing in Fallston. That's become pretty...
Did he recuse himself, though, on the last vote? Because there was only 3 in favor for you. Yeah. There was 2 absentees, 1 decline.
It was an abstention. It wasn't.
That's what it was.
But I mean, the odd part on that one was when they put the amendments, when they tried to put amendments on the bill, he didn't abstain.
Okay.
Only when it came up for the final vote, which, look, you had two abstentions, 1 absentee vote, 1 no vote, and 3 yes votes, so you had to have 4 votes. But yeah, I mean, look, this just reeks of politics. This reeks of a hit job. Honestly, the whole thing it's sad. It's pathetic.
The next step for the deemed Fallston Apartments will be a presentation for the Development Advisory Committee that's held Wednesday morning at 9 right in the County Council chambers. Tom Rogers, Fox 45 News.
Well, in Howard County, school bus troubles continue after an outpouring of parents claiming their children are still being picked up and dropped off late. The school board now holding a special meeting to discuss bus service. Fox 45 News has been reporting on the issue for weeks now. At the root of the issue, a new out-of-state bus contractor, Zoom Transportation. Last year, the school system signing a 3-year, $81 million contract. But on the first day of school, dozens of bus routes were either late or canceled altogether. And now the school superintendent announcing he will be shifting start times for students for a second time as a short-term solution.
They can't get her there at 8 a.m. How are they going to get her there at 7:50 in the morning? I worry that she'll just be even later to school.
A lot of us are concerned that we're going to be in the winter months without a real solution to what's going on now.
Well, those new start times are set to begin this Wednesday. In the meantime, that hearing is happening right now. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor is there. She'll have a full report coming up tonight on the news at 10.
Now, Howard County isn't the only school system seeing bus problems. In Prince George's County, schools are still almost 200 drivers short, almost a month into the new year. Brad Bell from our Sinclair sister station in Washington is asking what's being done.
For the Hyattsville middle school community and a room full of politicians and school administrators, this is a very happy day. The official ribbon-cutting ceremony for the brand new school and an opportunity to hear the school's young musicians perform. The school is one of a half-dozen new buildings opening this fall, all built under a public-private partnership. New superintendent of schools, Millard House, among the speakers, boasting about what's been accomplished.
This building should be, quite frankly, the gold standard.
But on this day of celebration, 7 News couldn't help but notice even this brand new school is plagued by the system's ongoing school bus issues. The school day begins at 9:10, but we spot bus after bus rolling in late, some just a few minutes late, some 30 minutes late. It's an issue we've been tracking since the start of the school year. We asked PGCPS Chief Operating Officer Oscar Coleman if getting kids to school so late is acceptable.
It is unacceptable. The vast majority of our students are getting to school on time. But again, we're not going to be satisfied and happy until all of our children who are eligible for bus service get here on time and ready for learning.
7 News learning that since the start of the school year 3 weeks ago, there has only been slight improvement, with the number of bus routes without drivers dropping to 196 from 217. Realistically, should parents expect any improvement this semester?
Yes, we're continuing to improve our route efficiency as we look to combine routes where effective.
Coleman telling us an outside auditor has already been hired and work has begun to determine how best to get kids to school with an understaffed bus service. He expects ideas within 90 days.
Some of those might include things like bell time changes, route changes. So we will look at all of those recommendations once they come in.
The system's still also trying to hire drivers. The job pays about $30 an hour, comes with full benefits, and the school system actually pays for commercial driver's license training. In Hyattsville, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
The latest round of state test results raises alarm in Baltimore City schools. And now we're getting a detailed look into just how bad it is.
That's right. Project Baltimore's Chris Papps obtained the results for every school in Baltimore City, and what he found is hard to believe.
When the state officially releases the test scores for every public school in Maryland later this month, the results will likely be heavily redacted, meaning parents and taxpayers will not be able to see how poorly many schools are performing. But we were given the unredacted scores from a source inside Baltimore City Public Schools. We found 40% of the Baltimore City high schools where the exam was given had 0 students score proficient in math. Students took the test in the spring of 2023, just a few months ago. We found 13 city high schools where not one student who took the state math test scored proficient. Not one student. These are the 13 high schools, which includes some of the city's most well-known high schools, including Patterson, Frederick Douglass, and Reginald F. Lewis. In total, students at 33 city high schools took the state math exam last spring. In our analysis, we are not including Eager Street Academy because it's located in the Baltimore City Detention Center. Of the 32 high schools remaining, if 13 have 0 students who tested proficient, that means 40% of Baltimore City high schools could not produce a single student who was proficient in math. Jason Rodriguez is with People Empowered by the Struggle, a nonprofit that in 2021 held rallies calling for Baltimore City Schools CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises to resign, in part because of low test scores.
We're still dealing with these same issues year after year. It's just scary to me and alarming to me because we know that what's happening now, it's just opening up the floodgates to the school to prison pipeline.
6 years ago, in 2017, Project Baltimore produced a similar story, where we analyzed state test results and found 13 city high schools where not a single student who took the test scored proficient. Coming up tonight on Fox 45 News at 10, we're going to show you what schools were on the list in 2017 that are still on the list in 2023. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
New tonight, Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates releasing an updated do not call list. The list includes police officers who have engaged in conduct that renders their potential testimony in court unreliable and non-credible. Bates says that the state's attorney's office has established new protocols that will guide how an officer is determined eligible for that list.
As state's attorney for the city of Baltimore, the residents have entrusted me to remain vigilant in the pursuit of justice, not only due to crimes at the hands of civilians, but also, and perhaps more importantly, to ensure that those law enforcement officers who have been sworn to protect the residents of our great city are also held accountable if they run afoul of their sworn duties.
Well, during the 2021 legislative session, the Maryland Public Information Act was amended to allow prosecutors to release do not call list information publicly.
Coming up after the break, new efforts to prevent voting fraud, the new system being introduced in Alabama.
Flu shots and COVID-19 vaccines. What do we know about getting the two together? I'm Liz Bonus. We share some answers just ahead.
And if you'll be spending some time with a little workout outside after work this evening, temperatures are looking inviting. 76 at 6, 7 p.m. temperature at 74, 72 at 8 after the morning rain, looking a lot better. We could have some heavy rain heading our way towards this weekend. It could even be some tropical rains. We're tracking the tropics coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.